Hello, I'm James McKinney, the creator and host of the Startup Story podcast. Just recently, I had the chance to speak with Jennifer Bett Meyer and Melissa Duren of Jennifer Bett Meyer Communications. We'll call them JBC for short. Jennifer and Melissa are partners at JBC, and during our recent episode of the Startup Story podcast, we unpacked their individual entrepreneurial journeys that led them to starting JBC. Well, their episode marks our 92nd episode, and they are also our very first episode where I recorded with both partners or co-founders. It is a fantastic episode because we cover so many topics around the individuality of founders and how to leverage each other's strengths within the structure of a partnership. We also talk about the challenges that underrepresented founders encounter when it comes to gaining venture capital as well as marketplace exposure. You will definitely want to queue up the Startup Story podcast online at thestartupstory.co or within your favorite podcast platform to hear the complete episode. Like I said, we cover quite a bit of ground in their episode, but there was one segment that I knew would deliver incredible value to all of you. In this segment of my conversation with Jennifer and Melissa, they share their top 5 pre-launch considerations for any direct-to-consumer brand. Over the last few months, we have had some incredibly impressive founders join the Startup Story podcast and even attend Startup Story Live. Christina Stembel of Farm Girl Flowers and Julie Bornstein of the Yes are the first two that come to mind. Well, part of the reason the level of founders of the Startup Story has continued to increase is because of JBC. But let me be clear, they are not my publicists. They just happen to represent some of the amazing founders I've had on the show, which truly validates the value of this video. With over 70,000 listeners all over the US, Australia, and the UK, I know this topic will resonate with so many of you. The JBC team are absolute experts at helping their D2C clients get the exposure you need, so get ready for some action items to take into your business. And make sure you watch to the very end of the video as I have a special offer to have your business highlighted in an upcoming episode of The Startup Story. So being that you are, PR experts, you're changing the game, you understand the power of story, you're working with some amazing D2C brands. What are, and again, my audience is probably, consists of a broad spectrum of D2C startups that I may not even know about. And in fact, I don't know about all of them. But also I do know many of them leverage Shopify because of how great things are. Now, we're not going to talk into the technical side of starting a brand, but just from a expertise and guidance, what are top 5 considerations that D2C brands need to think of when they're building a product and launching? Like in that all that runway leading up to launch, what are things that they need to be thinking of besides the operational side that they are thinking of?
We've seen a lot of brands and we have the luxury of getting a lot of inbounds. So we get to kind of see what categories we are seeing more brands popping up in and whatnot, and what we believe is going to work and what's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I think what we've realized, there needs to be a few things. One, the product itself has to stand up to whatever your claims are. It has to be beautiful. It has to be easy. It has to be well priced. So it doesn't actually matter if you get the branding right, the founder story right, any of the other stuff right, if the product itself can't live and stand on its own. So we really do analyze that pretty critically when we're getting a product-based business coming our way. Then there's the founder. We just truly believe in founder-backed stories and founder-backed brands. That is how we've built our business, is on brands that have a connection to the consumer, that you're buying into it. So Farm Girl Flowers are the most stunning online flowers on the market. I can say that, my friends say it, everyone says it, but I spend even more money there because of Christina and her story and the CEO. So yes, would I be a customer of them no matter what? Because I believe they have the best product, for sure. But you are now an evangelist for that brand because of the founder and her story. So that's really important. Then great branding is then important. It's kind of like the third thing. It has to look beautiful, be exciting. We believe in building community around brands. So if you have a brand that is going to build a really strong community base and it feels like you're interacting and there's something else going on, whether you have a blog or a really interesting Insta Live series that I'm constantly going back to, community is really important because for investors, you've now proven that you have an active following. You've proven that this community will go with you wherever you go, or anytime you launch something, they're going to follow. And then I guess the last thing, and it's not as important, but definitely important, is that there's something bigger than just you and your brand, whether it's a mission, and I say a mission because it could be a small, kind of we're sustainable. That's not small, but like we care about something other than just selling product.
Yeah.
So we're trying to reduce our plastic use. We are sustainable. We give back half of our proceeds to XYZ. People want to know that you care more about just making money.
Yeah, the
and
ultimate
are
goal,
giving back to the world in some
Yeah.
way.
the ultimate goal needs to be bigger than the conversion. That's what we say. At the end of the day, we like to work with brands, and I think consumers respond to brands that believe in something more than the transaction.
And it does, again, I want to say it does not have to be a give back. It doesn't have to be something that is, you're changing the world, like you're trying to be an activist, but you have to have something that matters to you. And maybe the brand in and of itself is what's changing the world. So we have a client called Branch Basics that has reimagined the at-home cleaning approach. So it's one concentrate, completely void of any chemicals, but what they're trying to tell you is that there's a lot of pollution in your home and it actually affects your health. So they actually have the one product, but they have built this huge content hub, just educating you on so many things that have nothing to do with their cleaning product. But that's why people love the brand, because they're learning, they're educating, and they're cleaning up their homes, they're cleaning up their lives, and they feel like this brand provided what they needed objectively for them to do that versus, building this huge suite of products to cover everything in your home. They really just believe in this one thing, but they're going to teach you so much more. So that matters, having that kind of larger vision or that larger story that you want to give to the world, that expertise.
I hope you found this content helpful. And if you did, then please make sure to subscribe to the Startup Story podcast on your podcast platform of choice so you can hear Jennifer and Melissa's episode in its entirety. With close to 100 founder interviews to choose from, I am confident you will find one that will be helpful to your entrepreneurial journey. I mentioned earlier that I have a special offer for you, and it requires nothing from you except your time. Every episode of the Startup Story, I read a listener review from Apple Podcast. If you visit the Startup Story show on Apple Podcast and leave a written review, I will read it in an upcoming episode. And here's the best part. If you insert your URL, social media accounts, or company name, then that segment will be inserted into the Startup Story and live on for years to come. It's basically a free advertisement for your business or brand within the Startup Story. I hope you will subscribe to the show as well as follow us on all the many social media platforms. I say it in every episode because I believe it. Entrepreneurs support other entrepreneurs, and we're here to support you.